With the thousands of hard-working, honest fishermen there were just a few pedophiles. Generally, they were seasonal fishermen who just came for the fishing season. All right, say when.
Okay, you're all good to go.
Okay, my name's Dave Beck. I live in Dartmouth Cove, Nova Scotia, originally from Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, born in England in 1945. Before I start my interview, I should mention I had stage 4 cancer. I had my bones removed in my face, also the right side of my jaw. So one side of my face is numb, I have no feeling. After the operation, told me I had 2 years. But that was 6 years ago, so I'm 4 years past my due date. As far as the pain in my face and a few side effects goes, it sure beats cremation. I was born in London, England during the war, and in 1946 we moved to Canada to be with my dad, who was in hospital for 5 years. We lived in a one-room shack, no heat, no running water, no fridge, a wood stove. All I really remember was how cold it was. At age 5, I moved to Lunenburg, Nova Scotia, to an old home that belonged to our family from the late 1800s, was passed down in the family. It was cold, no central heat, but there was a bathroom and a sink. There was one thing I knew. I never wanted to be poor. I definitely wanted to be successful, and that drove me. I started school in Lunenburg September of 1950, and I was a pretty active kid. I also learned pretty easy. But when I got to school, I found out that I was dyslexic and I had ADHD, which in those days they treated with drugs and a strap, which made my school years pretty tough. In those days, they loaded drugs to me. Pills that were really used for adults with problems with their nerves, because there were no pills for ADHD. So literally they drugged you. So by age, I'd say 9, 10, they were starting to put the drugs to me. Well, actually, I liked them and got addicted to them. Friday afternoons, with thousands of people working on the Lunenburg waterfront, my friend and I discovered we could get our hands on liquor. Drinking was quite common. They hid their liquor in places around boats and in the fish boards and around the welding shops. By age 12, I was fairly hooked, which just kept getting worse because of the pain of doing poorly in school. Failed grade 3, failed grade 5, was always at a failing mark. Teachers called us stupid, told us we were not college material. So naturally, we dug ourselves out of the hole by drinking, myself and my close friend, who also suffered from ADHD and dyslexia. That sort of molded the first 30 years of my life. We hung out, my friend and I, on the docks a lot. And with the thousands of hard-working, honest fishermen there were just a few pedophiles. Generally, they were seasonal fishermen who just came for the fishing season. Sure enough, at that time, I got cornered up in the wrong place at the wrong time, and I lived through a brutal molesting. I was taken to the doctor. They had to stitch me up. I was afraid to tell because in the 1950s, even being molested was shameful. You just couldn't tell. The police came, but I'd never admit to him. But he often gave me the 3rd degree. I was a kid who got in trouble a few times. But after that, he was always different with me. And he continuously asked me, what happened between the buildings? Someday he'll want to tell me, David, but I never did. In fact, I never broke my silence until I was almost 80 years old and published my book. At the time, it's a lifelong sentence, being molested. It changed me immensely. It made me very afraid of men. I was afraid of everybody. I was very tense. You accept it, but you never get over it. It meant I needed to take more pills. I had to go to see my doctor, and my drugs I was taking for ADHD were increased. Not in strength, but how many I was taking a day. This added to my drug problem. And naturally, it meant I drank more. 1961, I decided to leave school. I read at about a grade 3 level, but I did make it to grade 9. I was paper boy for Senator Kinley, and he owned a company, and he never asked if I could read or write. He just gave me a job because I was a good paper boy. Started in the metal shop. Every time it was slack in the metal shop, I'd go work in the plumbing shop, or I'd go work in the welding shop, or the electrical, because I wanted to learn every trade. I was driven to learn. My first car I bought was a 1950 Ford, and my friend and I, we restored it. My life started to come together. I then bought some scuba gear, and I started doing scuba diving jobs. I was working 40 hours a week, 3 nights a week, for 4 hours on Saturday mornings. Saturday afternoons, I was looking for diving jobs. Then one day I decided, when I drove past the Volkswagen garage, there was a bunch of used cars in there. So I went in to see the manager, who I actually caddied for at the golf course. Asked if I could be a car salesman. He gave me permission to sell cars, so I started selling cars, found I was really good at it. But I was different than some car salesmen. I grabbed all the big V8s and targeted all the young guys, and I put the car through the paces to sell them, and I did quite well. In 1970, got married, had a son, Tracy. We started several businesses, raising dogs, grooming parlor. I bought the house next door, was turning it into units. Pretty straight out all the time. Even though things were coming together, I was still having nightmares. I was still getting flashbacks from being molested. Then we had a second son. And unfortunately, at 8 weeks old, he died from SIDS. This ended our marriage. Things changed. It just didn't work. The best I can explain it is, if you're driving down a highway, you lose a child, and there's a Y at the end of the road. If you both choose the same Y and don't have to discuss it or talk about it, you're gonna be fine. But you have to discuss which road to take, it's all over. Due to this, I naturally was still on the drugs prescribed by the doctors, had pain pills added to it because I hurt my back. I was taking literally a cocktail of drugs and drinking too much. It just was not the right way to handle losing a child or a divorce. So the time came I had to get clean. I just had to for my other son, Tracy. So I went to my doctor, asked for help. They told me that I'd probably be under drugs for the rest of my life. It took me 5 years, and it was a hard 5 years. I was hospitalized twice, sick like no sickness you've ever had. But after 5 years, I was clean, and finally my life started coming together. Sober was a whole new world for me. I was more alert. I was wiser. And I started flipping homes. I sold the old set of flats that I had in my home bay that were paid for. I used the money to start buying homes in Halifax. I found out people who were losing their houses to the bank because they couldn't make the payments. So we'd approach them and offer them a sum of money, and I'd take over all the loans and get the house. Well, everybody was happy. I purchased the house, and I slipped them $5,000 cash on the closing. They're very happy. So this led into quite a successful business, and I did this for many years. At this time, my son was going to college, living with me. He dropped out of college, which was very difficult on me because he won an award of excellence in grade 12. He was really smart, but he did end up being a lab technician. For some reason, there was some product in the lab that made him sick. He was quite ill, came off, got better, went back to work, got more sick, and workman's compensation wouldn't help him unless he could name the product and prove the product that made him sick. He did get well enough to become a bartender. I started restoring my homes. I did a lot of windsurfing on windy days. I'd go to a singles dance on Friday night. Then I just happened to meet a lady who was going to teach me to read, a retired teacher. 4 years later, I married her. 2 years into our marriage, Tracy died. I found him. It was pretty rough. I was at one point definitely suicidal. They watched me like a hawk. What can I do? You have to deal with it or it deals with you. This time, I did not drink. I did no drugs. My friends, so many friends were there. They helped me. They coached me to go kiteboarding with them. And when I was kiteboarding, I had to pay attention 100% of the time, and other thoughts faded away. But my nights were still terrible. I'm sorry, this is tough. After the loss of Tracy, focusing is what I'd say got me out of my rut. I started to focus on his twin girls that were then 14 years old. Sold my house that I had built when I was single and bought another home. And my wife and I restored it together. That kept my mind occupied, along with my kiteboarding and my art. I started to do more painting as a folk artist, which I had started when I was a child. I was now 5 or 6 years into my reading lessons with my retired teacher, now wife, and I started concentrating more and more on writing my book, my life story. And the life story, though, was going on as I wrote the book. So I was adding to it. I was now in my early 70s, a pretty mixed up person, even though I was getting it together. My wife, my friends, writing the book, the kiteboarding, all kept me focused away from always thinking about Tracy. Many people say time heals. I wouldn't agree with them. I think time gives you time to accept it. Then you move forward. And I just worked hard and somehow dealt with it. But you have to overcome it or it will take over you. I moved forward working on my book, Screaming of the Gulls, my life story. But I was getting nowhere until 2 friends of mine offered to help me with the publishing end of it. We worked together on it for a year. In that time, I gave copies of the book before I published to about 20 people to proofread. By the time we got the book published, it was a feeding frenzy. I was mailing books out continuously the first few weeks. Working on the book and with my friends, I healed more and more. Working on the house with my wife. I built, she painted. We loved the view. We were right on the ocean looking at Halifax and Dartmouth Cove. All the pain I suffered, and I suffered my share between cancer, losing 2 sons, and growing up very poor. It made me focused, believe it or not. Focused to do well. Focused to not fall through the cracks again and fall back into addiction. Keep a level head is really difficult when you're going through hard times. You gotta do it with a clear head and a clear mind, and you gotta focus on things you love. People, sports, whatever you love, you gotta focus on it like you've never focused before.
What are you most proud of?
You know something? Beating addiction. Definitely. No question about it. It was the hardest of all battles. Harder than making money, even in some ways harder than losing my children. It's hard to believe how hard it is to beat addiction. Now, I'm 80 years old. I still snowboard. I'm kiteboarding, took up wingboarding due to my hard work from age 10 and 11, collecting beer bottles and pop bottles, to restoring homes and flipping them, and even flipping cars. Flipped a Z4 yesterday. I'm now quite comfortable, and I don't have to be worried like I was at 5 years old about being poor. I don't think there's any real secret. It's like anything in this world. You have to want it really, really bad to achieve it. Anyone know how to turn this GoPro off?